Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming today as we will unveil a new art memorial in recognition of the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attack on our nation. Although the acts of terror were the cause of great tragedy, this anniversary also marks acts of great courage and sacrifice. This art memorial honors and pays respect to those who were lost, those injured, and those who survived, and helps ensure we never forget our heroes. I would like to start this ceremony by calling Mayor Pro Tem Ernesto Gutierrez to the podium to lead us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the singing of the national anthem by Cathedral City High School student Mariah Hernandez. As they are coming to the front, I want to remind everyone that if you cannot socially distance from someone that you're near that's from outside your household, then please remember to wear your facial covering. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Good morning. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your heart over your hand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez, and a special thank you to Ms. Hernandez for that beautiful rendition. Before I proceed, I'd like to recognize several dignitaries in the audience, including my fellow council members. I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez, who you've already met. Joining us also today are council members Mark Carnevale, council member Rita Lamb, and council member Nancy Ross. I know you're here with us too. Thank you so much for coming. Also with us today are our city manager, Charlie McClendon, our fire chief, John Muhr, our police chief, George Crum. Also scheduled to join us today, Economic Development Director, Staff Liaison of the Public Arts Commission, and newly minted Dr. Stone James. You may have seen him on TV last night. And also with us today are members of our Cathedral City Public Arts Commission, the chair, DeeAnn Hopings, the vice chair, Piper Scott, member Scott Caldwell, member Sunshine Edwards, and member Tom Rudolph. And also joining us today is the former chair of the Public Arts Commission, Sue Townsley. Would you please give them all a hand? Although the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks were isolated to 4 locations on that fateful day, the terror that was struck was felt worldwide. All of us here today who are alive on September 11, 2001 can remember where we were at that moment, what we were doing, and how we felt learning of reports of a passenger plane striking the North Tower of the World Trade Center at 8:46 a.m. Eastern Time. On live television, video appeared showing an American Airlines passenger jet crashing into the North Tower in a massive fireball, killing everyone on board and those working at the impact site many stories above ground. I was working as a detective in the Sheriff's Internal Affairs Unit at the time, and remember first seeing the news and horrific video on the television as I was preparing for work and my drive from Cathedral City to Riverside, where I was working at the time. I remember the uncertainty as to what was happening and a sickening feeling that something was terribly wrong. Yet at the time it was thought to likely have been an incident or an accident. So like most of us, I continued on with my morning commute. 17 minutes later, the world realized that the airline crash was no accident when a second airline passenger jet struck the South Tower of the World Trade Center complex at 9:03 a.m. Eastern Time. It was quickly concluded that America was under attack. Instantly, thick black smoke boiled out of the nearly 1,400 feet tall twin towers, filling the New York sky and casting darkness on those on the ground. As America came to a halt, with all of us glued to our television sets, Americans wondered how this could have happened and who was responsible for these senseless acts of terror. Yet, as we sat paralyzed, watching the remnants of the attack unfold on television, our dedicated first responders heroically stepped into action to attempt to evacuate and rescue the up to 50,000 fellow working Americans in peril. Hundreds of firefighters, police officers, and paramedics entered the Twin Towers. They climbed the stairways into those 2 buildings that were burning from within and filled with black, hazardous smoke. At 9:59 a.m. Eastern Time that morning, the unthinkable happened. The South Tower completely collapsed, all in just 10 seconds' time, killing everyone who had not escaped, including the heroic first responders. Immediately, orders were given to all first responders to evacuate the North Tower, but because of communication disruptions caused by the South Tower collapse, not everyone heard the command. 29 minutes later, the North Tower collapsed too, killing everyone inside. Again, many of those being first responders. Recent reports document that 2,977 people were killed during the 9/11 terrorist attacks, with over 6,000 injured survivors. The attacks on the Pentagon and the downing of United Flight 93 in rural Pennsylvania that same morning were traumatic events in their own right and would be at the top headlines on any other day. However, it was the complete collapse of the Twin Towers in New York City that most Americans remember so vividly when reflecting on that horrific day. Those killed at the Twin Towers included hundreds of first responders. We tragically lost 343 firefighters, 71 law enforcement officers, and 8 EMTs and paramedics from private hospital units. Others who escaped or continued in the rescue effort were later killed by cancer after breathing in the dangerous smoke that engulfed New York City and being exposed to toxic chemicals while working at Ground Zero. We come together today, 20 years after the deadliest terror attack in our nation's history, to honor those who were lost, but are not forgotten. Thanks to the Cathedral City Public Arts Commission, my fellow council members, and the Cathedral City Fire Department, we are pleased to unveil a new art memorial that symbolizes the strength of our resolve and our unwavering respect for the heroes who went to work that day as they would any other day, hoping to return home to their families. For hundreds of first responders, that hope was dashed that fateful September 11th, but again, they will never be forgotten. At this time, I call upon Fire Chief John Muhr to come to the podium to give us insight into the 9/11 national and local response. Chief Muhr.
Wow, this is humbling. When we began this process, oh gosh, a year ago, we started making the plan for this memorial. I never thought we'd have this many folks pour out. Thank you very much for doing so. So what I kind of wanted to address is the day that the 9/11 attacks occurred, Riverside County amassed 60 first responders that responded directly to the incident in New York. Now, I'll give you a little bit of background on that. FEMA, who is our disaster management agency through the federal government, back in 1992 or 91, they began this process of creating USAR teams, so Urban Search and Rescue Teams. So there's a total of 28 since 1992, 28 teams of 60 first responders. Okay, so of the 60 responders, there's a myriad of different types of first responders, from law enforcement to firefighters, rescue workers, doctors, safety personnel. And these teams, there's 28 of them, like I said, 10 of which are in the state of California. And on September 11th of 2001, California happened to be on the bubble for a response, meaning if there was an event to occur in our nation and even internationally, and they needed these teams, they called on us. So when we think of the first responders responding, being 3,000 miles away, well, in the case of Riverside County, we had 60 of our personnel. And I know the mayor brought up the fact that we all can kind of place where we were on September 11th. And I can vividly remember reporting to duty. I was a company officer on an engine. And I responded in, not knowing really what was going on, but in the firehouse, the TV's on with the news in the morning at shift change. And so we became aware of it just like everybody else. But by the end of that day, we had 6 personnel from our local department that we were loading up on an airplane at March Air Force Base to respond. So this is within, the first 24-hour period. We've got Californians responding to help address the rescue and search efforts in New York, as well as the other attacks as well. And I think how it relates to us today, and it's very important, and it's been 20 years for me, and a desire that I've had to recognize those individuals as well. And I think it's also very important to reflect and envision the fact that many of the folks on that rescue team struggle today with the same effects that were experienced locally at the 9/11 event, which has to do with with their personal health, lung problems, cancer, and so on. So it did affect us, even as locally as one of our local agencies right here in Coachella Valley. So with that, I just want to again thank you all for coming here. I especially want to thank Corey Goddard and the Arts Commission. This was Corey Goddard, one of our fire captains. This was Corey's vision over a year ago, and I want to ensure that we all give him some acclaim for that. He did a great job. The Arts Commission did a great job, and again, thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Fire Chief Muhr. Now, please welcome the designer of the memorial, our very own Fire Captain Corey Goddard, to explain his reasoning for the new art piece to be located, or is located, here at Fire Station 411, and the thoughts behind the design. Captain Goddard.
Right. First, thank you, Chief, for those kind of words. I appreciate it. Next, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here today. Thank you for taking time out of your day to show everyone that you have not forgotten about these individuals. Thank you for showing the families, the friends, the coworkers, and all others that were affected on that day. I'd like to walk you through a little inspiration for the creation of the memorial. A few years ago, retired Captain Jeff Welch came to me and talked about creating a 9/11 memorial. We discussed a few topics, ideas, but in all honesty, I had no idea what to do, where to start, or how to pay for it. I didn't forget about it, as this was only just the beginning. My second experience was actually at the 9/11 memorial in New York. Visiting this memorial is probably the most touching and inspirational art piece I've ever seen and experienced in my career as a firefighter. As you walk up, there are two large waterfalls that stand in place of where each of the towers once stood. These waterfalls each are about just above ground level height. They cascade into the ground below, symbolizing the void left behind by the lives lost. Around each waterfall is the name of the individuals lost that day. As you walk around these two walls that encircle the waterfalls, you'll notice some of the names are decorated. These names are decorated for their birthdays. It's such a simple yet heartfelt act. After you make your way into the memorial, there's a large wall with an inscription on it. It states, "No day shall erase you from the memory of time." Around the inscription, there are 2,983 blue watercolor squares. Each square has its own shade of blue. Each square is for a life lost in either of the World Trade Center attacks. The last part of the tour, which was the most difficult for me, was a room where a pass device was alarming. For those of you who don't know what a pass alarm is, it's a device that firefighters are required to wear when using their air packs in a hazardous atmosphere. These devices start to alarm when a firefighter is motionless for a set amount of time. This is usually about 20 to 30 seconds. Now knowing the fate of these firefighters, I chose to move on from this room. My final encounter, and definitely more uplifting than the last, was during the build of our new fire engine. I went to the Pierce Fire Engine plant in Wisconsin with Battalion Chief Eric Hauser and Captain Craig Sanborn. While we were touring the plant for the design of the new specs, or the design for the new fire engine, we were walking the plant floor and noticed that they had their own 9/11 memorial. It looked to be about 3 to 4 feet stainless steel towers. We talked about how great of addition something like that would be in the city one day. After these 3 experiences, I feel at this point I'm ready to try and tackle building a 9/11 memorial. What, where, and how were still the questions though. During this time frame, this new fire station was being built. So I thought, let's build a new memorial at the new fire station with the new fire engine. My crew and I at the time met with the contractor here to find a possible location for the towers. We noticed this large concrete pad here next to the flagpole. As you can see, this is where it ended up being. Next, I needed to figure out exactly what I was going to build. The stainless steel towers that I had seen in Wisconsin still continued to come to mind. I decided to do something very similar to those 2 pieces. But how big and made of what? I worked through a few numbers and I wanted to replicate the exact shape of the 2 towers that once stood. I kind of worked the numbers of each of the towers. I came down to a 1/50th scale. Myself and my engineer, Scott Keyran, built a wood framed piece of that 1/50th scale. Once we put it into place in this exact location, we figured it would integrate well with the tall flagpole and the tall fire station. So once you see these 2 towers here, just recognize that the 2 towers were 150 times larger than these 2. Now I need to figure out what I was actually going to make these of. What would be strong enough to bear the weight, last in the desert heat, and be cost effective? This is where I started to look for help. This is where my thank yous will start. The first person I need to thank is Battalion Chief Stefan Tamir. He's not here today, but without him, I wouldn't have been able to turn my stick figure pencil drawing into a CAD design. I think Public Arts Commission appreciated that. He helped come up with a full design and approximate dollar amount for my piece. He also got me in touch with fabricator Jason Carlin. If everybody can just take a second and see Jason Carlin over here, he's the man that basically helped design and make sure this piece was possible. Without his skills and abilities, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish this memorial in a timely manner. He's the individual that turned the picture in my mind into a reality. So a special thank you. Thank you, Jason. I have a few more thank yous to give, as many helped in this process. My first contact in this process was Tom Rudolph. Tom Rudolph was the person who got the ball rolling for me with the Public Arts Commission. Thank you to Tom, Sue Townsley, Stone James, and the rest of the Public Arts Commission. You gave me continued support and helped keep me on track to make sure the art piece was completed on time. Thank you to Mayor Pro Tem, and the rest of the City Council for approving the project and its location. Thank you to Horst, Rudy, and Facilities for helping put in the pedestals and the electric for the electrical portion of the memorial. And last, definitely not least, is thank you to all the Cathedral City firefighters and the rest of the department. Your ideas, words of wisdom, and assistance is always greatly appreciated. So I leave you with this. Over the last 20 years and continuing today, no person that perished on that fateful day will be erased from the memory of time and will always be remembered here in the city of Cathedral City. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain Goddard. Now please welcome to the podium Cathedral City Public Arts Commissioner, Chair, DeeAnn Hopings, to lead us during the unveiling of the Art Memorial and speak about the Commission's involvement in the project. Ms. Hopings.
Good morning to all. Glad you could come out on this sunny California Saturday morning. We all remember that after the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the president at the time, Franklin Roosevelt, said, "A day that shall live in infamy." Well, September 11th, 2001, was a day that everything changed. All of a sudden we realized that we were vulnerable, that we could be attacked. That was a time that was very unsettling, at the very least, for many, many people. So today, we're going to unveil the vision that Captain Goddard had for the memorial and how the process works. When somebody has a vision of an art piece that they would like to do, and they come and seek the support of the Public Arts Commission, and what our task is to understand what the person is proposing, their vision for what they want to do, and if it is something that we can support and that fits in our community and has a message for the community. So what we do is once we evaluate that and we approve, we make a recommendation to City Council, and purely a recommendation. They don't have to do what we ask, but we try to be as thorough as we can to anticipate questions and demonstrate our support for the project. So, without further ado, we shall do a countdown, and from the count of 5, need a little help with this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good. One final thing I will say is that for an art piece to be created, it needs 2 things to happen. it needs somebody with a vision, and that vision needs to get implemented. So, as Captain Goddard said, special thanks to Jason Carlin for his work in this project. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Art Chair Hopings. So we're reaching the conclusion of our ceremony. We still have a little more to go. But ladies and gentlemen, I do want to conclude this ceremony with a moment of silence. That moment of silence is going to begin in about 4 minutes at 8:46 a.m., which marks the time that the first plane struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center complex. In this moment of silence, we ask that you remember those who we lost, those who survived, and our first responders who sacrificed everything to rescue the victims and stand ready to do the same today. Please join me in this moment of silence, and we'll let you know when it begins. In the meantime, staying where you are, you can continue to observe our great new art piece. 20 years ago today, September 11, 2001, it was a bright sunny day in New York City, just like today. And then tragedy struck. Let us remember those who we lost, those who survived, and our first responders with a moment of silence. Thank you all for coming today, and please feel free to come up as you're safely able to, socially distancing, to get a closer look at this monumental piece of art. Also, as you come forward, as supplies last, please help yourself to a bag prepared by the Scrap Gallery and I believe Nellie Kaufman School students, if that's correct. And inside this bag are wildflower seed pods in honor and memory of those lost on September 11, 2001. As you plant them and as they grow, please continue to remember. Thank you so much.